So welcome to COPRCHATS episode 4. I'm sat here with Killian O'Sullivan, owner, director, creative director. What else didn't you for real?
Yeah, many hats. Yeah, that's what happens in this industry. You kind of have to be everything. I'm HR, I'm admin.
You have to be everything in one. You're also a presenter on Ireland AM. You were on radio for years. You were also a DJ in 4Play DJs. You were an actor on TV. We'll touch on that a little bit. But welcome to the studio.
Thanks a million. I love the studio space, by the way. It's very cool. It's very impressive.
It's a work in progress, but I am delighted to have it. It's great having your own little space. It makes all the difference.
Even just for your gear and your kit, underneath my stairs is a mess with all my stuff, and you just would love to have a designated space that's just your space to work in. So, very envious of this.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's even for experimentation and stuff like that when you want to try new things or
This is it, because if I want to do something like that, we had a shoot that I had this idea in my head of what I wanted to do, but it was all just an idea. So I had to turn my kitchen into a studio for a day, which is all well and good until you still need to do stuff that happens in the kitchen. And it's I have a very understanding partner who's just like, you just do what you got to do. So to have somewhere that you could literally just mess about all day is it's very cool. Well done.
Oh, it's brilliant. So I want to take you back to when you started out. So you actually started on TV at 13 years of age, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it actually all started because I wanted to buy a BMX, and my mom wouldn't buy me one because she thought it was a kid's bike. And I got a part in a play,
right?
And the play was in the Dublin Theatre Festival, and it was only meant to be, I think there was 4 nights of a run, but in this play I was going to earn enough in the first week to buy the BMX that I wanted. So that's all I wanted to do. And then in the play I got spotted and asked to go into audition in RTE. At the time I'm 12, and I'm thinking to myself, obviously there's some Billy Barry kid who's going to come in all singing and all dancing and get this gig. I'm not going to get this gig. And I wasn't even going to go for the audition. But the producer said, look, if you come in, we'll show you behind the scenes and we'll show you the set. So I remember my audition, I kind of rushed through it because I'm just thinking the whole time, I want to see the set. I didn't want to do this bit because I was part of me thinking this is wasting everyone's time. Yeah. And then that audition went well. And then the next thing I know, it's about a week later, I came in from school and my mom was on the phone, and I just heard her being like, Jesus, God, no, you don't have to pay. No, look, this would just be a great experience. And then the other person was obviously saying, well, no, legally we have to pay. So she's like, whatever the minimum is, it's grand. That was her negotiating skills. Whatever you want to pay is fine. And we got a contract for 7 weeks initially just to go in as this character. And then after the 7 weeks, it was kind of embarrassing because we had a leaving party for me in there, and they all signed a lovely card, and that was it. My contract was up and done. And then they rang a couple of weeks later to ask if I wanted to come back on an open-ended contract. And I was there nearly 10 years, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah, I was in my early 20s when I finally left.
And you went in, when you finally left then, you went into radio, I think it was then, was it?
Yeah, so all along through the years of being in Fair City, I was always more fascinated with how it was made rather than being in it.
Yeah.
Never realizing it would lead on to a career. It was just cool. It was on set all day. That was my life. So when I wasn't in a scene, as opposed to just being in my dressing room playing PlayStation or whatever, I'd be staying on set with the directors, with the floor managers, just asking questions because it was fascinating to me. Yeah. We didn't have resources like YouTube. This was, what was it? The early noughties. So what we did have of internet research, I didn't have access to it, or I didn't even know where to go and be looking this stuff up. So I had these people who were actively doing this cool job and just asking them about stuff and fascinated by it all. And then I left the show in 2006 because I did one of these reality TV shows where you dance dancing shows. It was called Jigs. It's called Jigs and Reels. Oh yeah, you can. It's there. Yeah,
we'll stick that in the video part of this.
Every year on my birthday, the lads in the WhatsApp group seem to dig. I don't know where they get it from, but they get archive footage of me Irish dancing. Yeah, it was like Dancing with the Stars, except it was all Irish dancing based.
Oh wow.
But it was Irish dancing to contemporary music. So it was to pop songs, but you're Irish dancing. And it's now what the lads on TikTok are blown up all over the world.
Yeah, what's the Irish group that are doing that at the moment?
Oh God, now their name escapes me. But they're on Good Morning America. They're
for the president on Paddy's
huge
Day.
Careers, yeah.
Massive.
It could have been me. No. But so I did that show, and then that was the first time I was, because on that show I was on as Killian, and for the previous decade I had only ever been Lorcan in the eyes of the TV.
Yeah.
For the first time in my life, when I was in Tesco or filling my car with petrol or doing whatever, people were coming over and saying, "Oh, Killian," as opposed to just usually shouting Lorcan at me. Yeah. And it was really refreshing. I was this is I am my own person. I'm not just this character. And then I went to the producers and I said, look, I want to start doing more things outside of Fair City.
Yeah.
I want to start, maybe presenting. I want to do different roles. And the way soap works is that, certainly when I was in the show, it might have changed by now because I'm long gone out of Fair City, but they don't want you doing much outside of the show because soap opera relies on the fact that you don't break that fourth wall, that you are that character as far as the audience is concerned. And they don't want you appearing in many other things because they want you just to be this character. And then it's kind of this, it's this tough thing that when you're in a soap opera, you're so synonymous with this character that it's actually hard for you as an actor to get booked on other jobs because other directors and other casting agents, they don't want the guy from Fair City because you're too associated with that show, and they want their audience to see, their character and not see, oh, your man from Fair City's in this, you know what I mean? So it was actually, you're kind of, when you're in a soap, it's the most regular work you can get really as an actor. It's pretty consistent if you're one of the main cast, but it limits your ability to do other stuff really outside of it. So I was only in my early 20s, no mortgage, no kids, no responsibility or commitment. At this point in my life, I had a very blessed life from like 12. I was like on TV, I was living my best life. I had money, everything was great. So I was like, I'm just gonna leave Fair City. I'll just like start working. I might go to America, I might go to the UK. And at the time I was surrounded by a lot of yes people who'd be like, oh, you should do this, you'd be great, you'd be great. And then I left Fair City after doing jigs and reels and wanting to kind of do more as Killian as opposed to just this character. And I didn't book a gig for a year, 12 months. Yeah. First thing I did is I went traveling with a couple of friends because I never got a chance to travel because I was still juggling school all the time in Fair City. So 3 months off at summer from school meant storylines. So I was just in RT that whole time. So I never had anything more than maybe 10 days off for a family holiday. Apart from that, I never had the chance to go do my J1 or any of that sort of stuff. So when I left the show, myself and two mates went traveling, and that was quite a formative month or so for me. That was really a chance for me to kind of describe that. It was interrailing around Eastern Europe. I described that time as, up till that point in my life, I can pinpoint the moment. It happened on an overnight train from Krakow in Poland to Prague, and we had spent the whole night drinking honey whiskey with these other people from all over. You just meet these people in trains and you just get drunk. And I was on my top bunk and I had this little window down and I had a song on repeat on my iPod. That's how long ago it was. I had designated an iPod. Yeah. It was old school with a little dialy wheel, And I just had this moment of like this is life, this is me, this is, I am more than just my character. And I came back from that trip really like ready to work and, hit the ground what I thought would be running. I just hit the ground hard because casting agents wouldn't see me because I was so synonymous with Lorcan, with that character. They just didn't want Lorcan in their stuff. Didn't book a gig for a full year. And then I got, I booked one day on The Clinic. It was an RTE drama. I played a guard and it was a very small part. I arrested Adrian Turner, who's gone on to do obviously huge things. And just for that, I was like, I wanted to play him with the Cork accent for no other reason other than my whole show reel was just me as this one character with a Dublin accent. So I wanted something that was a bit different. And did that and then thinking like this could be the start of something, and then radio silence. And I remember having a chat with my agent at the time, and he was like, you might need to start self-generating work a little bit. And that's what I found as an actor. It doesn't matter how much you want to work. It's not up to you when you work. You're only at the whim, or you're whether you do or don't work is based on whether you're right for the character or whether you're booked for the gig. So you can be as enthusiastic as you want, but it doesn't result in actually doing what you love to do. So then I started, a friend of mine wanted to make a music video, and I had never done anything like this at all, but I just thought, I can do that. And got an old handy cam, and we recorded this music video over the course of a weekend. Loved that. And I got this sense of satisfaction. And you'll know this from when you're directing a video. I kind of describe it as like a chef. The difference between directing a video and being an actor is like when you're a chef, right, and you're making spaghetti bolognese, you're in control of the pasta, of the tomato sauce, of the flavoring, of the mince, of everything. When you're an actor, you're just the pasta. And you can be the best pasta in the world, but if the sauce is crap, the spaghetti doesn't really work. So I always found that as an actor, you're only ever in control of your one element.
Yeah.
Whereas as a director, you're the one who sets the parameters for your actors. And you can say, hey, you can have as much fun within these parameters as you want as an actor, but you stick within these parameters.
Yeah.
And you're the one who controls all the elements to make the bigger vision. So when I produced kind of my first video, the sense of satisfaction out of something now existing that didn't exist before me making it, I was like,
that's where the light bulb went on.
Yeah, that was a real moment of like, this is what I want to do. But at the time, obviously I still needed to live and have money and pay for things. So that's where I'd moved at that time into radio.
Yeah.
And I think moving into radio initially was a little bit of a rebellion against where I'd been up to this point, because it's certainly in Ireland, it's hard to talk about what it was like for me in Fair City, because if I speak frankly and honestly and open about actually what it was like for me when I was on Fair City, people are like, get over yourself.
Yeah.
But the reality is, everywhere I went, somebody would be coming over and hanging out of you, and there's autographs signed. There are children the length and breadth of this country named after me. I used to get fan mail. All of that was the reality that I lived. It was reality. And it's not necessarily an easy reality. Every time you go out, you're just aware of the fact that you're on the whole time, that somebody might see you, and this was the biggest thing I had a fear of, is that people would see you and then just basically decide what sort of a person you were based on their interpretation of you.
Yeah.
Never having met you, not knowing you, just going, he seems a bit of a prick. For whatever reason, there's a great story of George McMahon, who played Mondo in Fair City, and there was a night he was out in the Red Cow or somewhere on the piss some night, and this stranger didn't know George from Adam, just saw him, and then this stranger fella was in college with my brother, and he's chatting away, and my brother and George are close, they play golf together, but your man didn't know this. And your man goes, I saw your man Mondo, fucking up in the Red Cow and all. And he said nothing. And he's like, oh yeah, what was he like? He was like, you want to fucking see him sitting there like fucking drinking water like he's Britney Spears. I'm like, that was just drinking water, but your man had this perception of, who does he think he is?
Yeah.
And then it was,
you drink water.
Yeah, how dare you? Yeah, exactly. So when you're in front of the camera like that, you're kind of at the whim of being on the whole time. So I think I moved into radio because radio was still an opportunity to me to have that performance element of a creative outlet.
Yeah.
But yet you're hidden behind a microphone. No one knows what you looks like.
You still have that anonymity.
And that's what I think drew me towards radio. And then as well, behind the camera, because you still get a chance, because it's all about creating for me. It's all about turning whatever energy I have in me into something tangible. Yeah. And being able to do that behind the camera or behind a microphone for me was the dream for a number of years. Yeah.
Deadly. Because you were saying there about, you were in RT the whole way through. Up until you were, was it 20, 21, 22?
Yeah, early 20s. I think it was about 21 when I decided to leave, and it was probably by the time the storyline wrapped up, because I'd been in the show so long, they didn't want to just
kill you off,
get rid of me. Well, they did kill me off, but they wanted to build up to it, because there's we're not just going to waste a decade's worth of this character.
Yeah.
So they built a whole storyline around it involving gangsters, and then went down a blaze of glory and had a shootout, and I had squibs where a bullets blown. Yeah, it was very cool. It was very
That's
cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
But because I do hear a lot of people asking, do you need to go to college for creative industries? I touched on it a bit with Evan Doherty, where he went to college, didn't find too much value in it. You said it was good, but when he left, that's when his career kind of really took off, and it was more the work that he was doing was what pushed him forward rather than the education he was receiving. So you didn't go to college, did you? No,
I went to. I did initially when I was still in Fair City, and after my leaving cert, I went to the core in Inchicore, which is this performance college, and there's everything. There's stage managing, there's backstage stuff, then there's actors, and I went in the acting capacity, and your whole time there builds up to this huge big show. All the actors that have been training for years are acting in it. All the floor managers are the ones who are running it. All the set designers are the ones who build the set. So it's a huge big thing. And my storylines meant that I wasn't going to be around much for rehearsals for the big final thing. So I wasn't able to take one of the parts in the final production. So I wasn't going to be able to be graded for my time in the college. And I had to sit down with one of the heads in the college. And they said to me, because at the time I was working in Fair City, and I was like, what do you think I should do? Should I take time away from Fair City so I can get graded and get qualified? And they looked at me and they were like, but there's nothing we can give you, there's no piece of paper we can give you as a college that'll get you any further than where you already are. Like, you're already working.
Yeah.
And as much as there's a lot to be said for traditional education in some fields, but I have found all college could do is maybe give you the ingredients or give you the knowledge as to how to use the tools, but it's through experimenting that gets you good at using the tools.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
I get you. No, I get you.
Yeah.
You kind of have to figure, like, they can tell you all the technical things to do.
Yeah.
It's the same, like in a photography course, they can tell you about aperture and ISO and shutter speed and stuff, but they can't teach you that creative eye or that eye for detail. Or I'm sure you know as yourself, like when you come up with, you referenced there, you know, you came up with a mad idea in your kitchen, coming up with that, they can't teach you that.
No.
That's
No,
you just kind of have
and,
to.
and even stuff like your bedside manner, the way like Evan is so good when he shoots, and he'll say it himself. A lot of the time, the lighting setup, like people will book him now to get the Evan shot. Let's say cover of Stellar magazine, whatever it might be. It's like, so technically, he's worked out the kinks. Technically, he could set up his lights and the camera, and anybody could just press the trigger, and the shot would be exposed the same, framed similarly, fine. But what someone like Evan does, and I love working with the likes of Evan or Alex Hutchinson or people like this, it's their relationship with the talent that gets the shot.
Yeah.
And as a director then, it's your relationship with who you're putting in front of the camera that gets the best out of them. And that's something that you can't learn in the classroom.
No.
That's something you can only learn by being on set, watching people do it, and then doing it yourself. Really.
Yeah, because he was saying that he learned that through Barry McCall.
Yeah.
He said that's what he actually learned, was how to talk to clients. And that's why when I spent a bit of time with him, I saw how he spoke to models, and like, I'm not gonna lie, the first time I shot with a model, I was terrified. That looks great. And you don't know what you're doing. But after spending a bit of time with him, you learn how to take charge and give proper direction, get the shots that you want. So there's definitely something that you have to learn by yourself, or else go and do, I always say to people, go and do like an internship with someone. Go and just say you'll work for free for a couple of weeks. If they have any shoots coming up, you'll assist on the shoot, whatever it is, just go and see how someone else's works.
Yeah.
Because you'll learn not only technical things, you will learn mostly about how you deal with people and how to talk to clients.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I will always try and bring assistants on board, and as much as when they're with me, I'll teach them about lighting, position and stands, something as simple as how to set up a C stand, how to wrap cables, all that stuff that is kind of the fundamentals of being an assistant you'll need to know. But it's dealing with the client, dealing with the talent and those relationships, because a lot of the industry, a lot of people can do the job, but you need to make yourself stand out. And for me, it's the relationship that I try and establish with clients is part of the reason I think why 90% of my bookings are return bookings, because they're booking the guy as opposed to booking the product. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've said that before to a few people. It's like people book people. They don't. It's like when you're buying something. If you like make a big purchase, say if you bought a car or something, if you meet a really nice lad and you actually enjoy speaking to that lad, you go to 1,001 different dealerships, but you're going to buy the person. You don't buy the product.
Exactly.
So it's a massive thing. Is dealing with people, and I've even. The start of my career, I was like, do I want to do this? Do I not? You become unreliable, or you kind of become a bit flaky, or you're not really bothered with certain things. And over time then, as soon as you decide, I actually do love this, and you make that switch and you give it 110%, that's when you start seeing the clients come back, come back.
It is, and it's not just about it. I see DPs online and their work is aesthetically beautiful, and it looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
But most of the work you're going to get, certainly in Ireland, it's not that level.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff that pays for studios, the stuff that pays for lights, the stuff that pays for everything that you do is the stuff that's not as sexy and glamorous as you see. And that comes from building those relationships with those clients. And I see it doesn't matter how technically amazing you might be, if you're socially awkward, you mightn't get the rebook, and I don't think you will. I don't think that. I think when it comes to, I find on sets, it's such a collaborative process. It's the same with hair and makeup.
Yeah.
If an artist comes onto the set and all they do is bitch and moan or spend their day with their head in their phone, they're not getting booked again.
No, not at all.
You know, and that's how I feel in this industry. You like, be sound and be present.
Yeah.
And anyone who's on set, if they're ever really bitchy, or they're bitching about someone else, the first thing I think of is, well, if you're bitching about them to me,
are you bitching about me to someone else?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because you have to spend 12 hours, maybe more, with these people in a day.
Yeah.
You're all going to be tired. You're all going to be pushed to your limit. And if you're doing something creative, you're kind of out of your comfort zone. So what you need to have is a safe place to fail.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody who's a bit snarky and who's going to go, oh, you tried that, didn't work, then you don't have that safe place to fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's more important than your technical abilities. If you're prepared to create an environment where it's okay to fail, then that's the kind of person I'm going to book on a shoot quicker than somebody who might be technically better.
Yeah, like you could have spent, say, 45 minutes on lighting and stuff like that to get a particular look, and it's just not working. And the model's sitting there, and now if you'll have two different models. One model will say, well, what can we do to make it, what do you need me to do? And then you have another model who's, oh, well, can we just do something else then? There's no, like, as in, one will be very dismissive, one will be very kind of, oh, I just couldn't be arsed. It's taking you 45 minutes, it's not working. And they blame you for that, whereas you have a vision. Then on the other hand, then you do have that team who are like, okay, well, what can we do to help? Or is there anything that we might be able to change? Or do you need a hand with anything? That's the kind of environment you want to put yourself in. So that's where those creative things will, okay, well, this isn't working, but maybe if you do that. And they're more open to trying new things and stuff like that. And
exactly.
It makes for a better shoot all over.
The only way you're going to find those interesting shots and those shots that will look different is when you push yourself creatively and you experiment.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've tried stuff and it has failed miserably, and you move on from it, but you've learned.
Yeah.
And then it's because it's the same path you've walked to get an amazing shot. And you don't know at the end of the path if there is an amazing shot or if it is an awful shot, but you've got to walk the path either way. And if you have people like that, if you have models on board who are like, I'll give you whatever you need, whether it works or not, that's what you're looking for. And it's when you have, and again, I've seen in the last number of years, because I've been producing videos for about the last 15 years. And when I started in the fashion and beauty industry more so, it was all stills, and video was something, it was always an afterthought.
Yeah.
It was like, right, did we get the still? Because that's the main thing. And then, oh, we got video, don't move on, we'll just get video in there for a second, and you're like almost apologizing for being there.
Yeah.
And in the last couple of years, that's totally shifting. That video is becoming so much more important. But what isn't changing at the same rate in some instances are models' ability to shoot video.
Yeah.
And I think with the likes of social media and certainly the filters on Instagram and TikTok, models now are so in control of how they look that, and everyone will speak to this, that it used to be a case if you shoot a model and you're the photographer, so they trust, boom, 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 we got the shot, moving on.
Yeah.
Whereas now, a lot of times you will have somebody this side of the camera who'll go, show us, and then they'll have,
their
opinions when your job as a model, and any of the real big international models that you work with, they get it. Their job is to be a clothes hanger, essentially. Yeah. Their job is not to be the creative behind it.
Yeah.
Their job is to trust that the creative director, the photographer, and whoever else is in charge of the shoot will pick the frame that best suits the campaign, not the frame that best suits you because you think you have a side or whatever.
Yeah.
And the more you work with like bigger, more international models, you see that they get it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's, the models who might have, say, blown up on Instagram and then are transitioning into editorial work that they don't, and this is going to sound awful, and I hope that this isn't just cut for a soundbite, but they don't know their role.
Yeah.
And that's important on set, to know your role as well. Like it's about respecting everyone else's position, and the bigger the models that I've worked with, like I've shot quite a lot with Tom Webb, who's done Ray-Ban campaigns on Times Square, and Sam Webb, who's done Dolce & Gabbana campaigns. Yeah. And they come on set and they know their role and they nail it every time, and they're prepared to do whatever is needed to get the shot because they trust the collaborative process.
Yeah.
Then you might have some other people who, and don't push me because there'll be no names given, but might have like blown up on social media in the last little while, and then they rock on thinking that their shit don't stink and that they know best. And it's like, sometimes it's a bit of a struggle, and that can be a bit of a difficult one to navigate, because you still need to keep them happy.
Yeah.
But you also need to get what you need to get out of the back end of it.
Yeah.
And make sure that when all things are said and done, that the client who's paying for it isn't going, well, why didn't we get this? Why didn't we get that?
Yeah.
And you have to explain to them, oh, well, because they didn't want to shoot that. When if they're booked for a gig, that's their gig,
That's their job to do. I'm just laughing about the way you said you weren't going to say any names. I could probably pick about 4 or 5 out of my head. I guarantee one of them would land. We'll pull that bit as a soundbite anyway.
Yeah.
Get you in loads of trouble. Okay, so we're going to jump in. I just want to check the cameras beforehand, but we are going to jump into the quickfire questions with COPRCHATS.ie.
Yeah.
Speaking of COPRCHATS, the first time I ever met you was in COPRCHATS.
Yeah, I'm down there the whole time.
Yeah.
I live 5 minutes down the road, so their hire department has been a dream for me, because instead of investing 15 grand in a camera and only using that specific camera for maybe 10 shoots a year, rock in, hire it. Of course, the client pays for the hire anyway, so it's not out of my pocket, and you get to play with, stuff that would be far too expensive just to buy for the 5 or 10 projects you'd use it in a year. So yeah, bring on the quick fire round.
Brilliant. Okay, Killian. So the quick fire questions with COPRCHATS.ie. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube?
YouTube.
Story or a reel?
Story.
Blackmagic, Red, or Ari?
The dream Ari, but the reality Blackmagic.
Red's that middle one. That's
the Reds are too precious, man. You can't just turn them on and go.
Have you used the Red Komodo yet?
Yeah, it gets in the way of the way I work a little bit.
Okay, it's too technical, too slow.
Yeah. Look, if I had a full crew and we had all day to shoot something beautiful, I'd love to shoot in Red. Yeah. The reality of 90% of what I do is you need to be quicker and you need to be adaptable. Yeah. And Reds are just a little bit too precious for me.
Okay. Quick question. The Benetti menswear campaign you shot up in the Wicklow Mountains.
Yeah.
What was that shot on?
That was shot on a GH5.
No way.
Yeah.
That looks...
That little GH5, man. Honestly, it was a powerhouse, absolute powerhouse. Sad to see it go, but that little camera, I chose it because we were going to be trekking, and we did trek all around Glendalough that day, and had it on a gimbal, and it just performed so well. Yeah, little GH5.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, DaVinci Resolve, Premiere Pro, or Final Cut?
Premiere Pro.
Okay. Do you use that for your colour grading as well?
I do. I started when I shoot in Blackmagic Raw, I colour grade in DaVinci and then export and cut in Premiere.
Okay.
Because I'm just so used to Premiere now. I can do something in Premiere in an instant, and I'm still a bit with Resolve. I have to go, like, it just takes me a little bit longer. Yeah. And I need to, the way I work, when I have an idea, I need to be able to execute it straight away, or otherwise I can lose it.
Yeah.
And then
it just drifts off.
That's it. Yeah.
It's gone so. Okay. Would you rather listen to an audiobook or a podcast?
Podcast.
Okay. A person or brand you'd love to collab with?
It'd be a makeup brand, beauty brand like Chanel or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chanel was always one that I looked at as well.
That'd be
Chanel or Dior or something.
Yeah, the dream client. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the big one, isn't it? Your favorite creator at the moment that you're watching, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube?
Grainy Days.
Grainy Days. What's that about?
He is a dude who's got this awesome dry sense of humor. He shoots film, and he's got these like 30-minute long videos, and it's almost just like ASMR. He just seems so sound, and he's so self-deprecating. He'll be like, he'll go and he'll be shooting this thing, and he was like, oh, no, I shot a whole roll, it was all crap, and I was going to give up, and then I thought I'll do one more, and he's just, I'm loving Grainy Days at the moment. Yeah, really.
I'll definitely check him out. Is he on YouTube?
He's on YouTube. Yeah.
I'll definitely check him out. And then the last one, then, radio or TV? TV?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks a million for the quick fire questions. Thanks again to COPRCHATS.ie for the sponsorship, lads. You've been absolutely amazing over the past few episodes. And as Killian said, we all use them. You go check them out at COPRCHATS. Killian, when I said I did a deep dive, I said this in the last podcast because I thought I actually went deeper than I ever had before.
I don't post that much on Instagram.
You well,
not as much as some people.
Not as much as some people, but yeah. I'm gonna wear these now. I went down back as far as when you got a Wagamama card.
Oh, the big time.
Oh,
the big time.
That was 2012.
Yeah.
That was a big deep dive now.
It peaked when I got a Wagamama card. Yeah, when you free Wagamama, you know you've made it.
Yeah, that was like the Nando's Gold card. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Nando's card came out then.
I had one of those as well at the time.
Did you?
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder if they still accept them.
I don't know. I remember at the time they had given them out to some personalities, but they weren't happy about it because they weren't coming in to eat them. They were ordering on the phone, just collecting them and going. And they were like, the whole idea is that you're sitting in our restaurant for an hour eating them, so other people can see you eating them in the restaurant, not just taking it to go take away. Yeah, yeah. Oh, the good old days.
The good old days. And speaking of the good old days, I want to ask you about this. So it's Show Me the Music.
Oh yeah, and that cardigan. I think I loved that cardigan because people hated it so much, and the more they hated it, the more I wore it and loved it. Yeah. Show Me the Music was a TV show, my first ever time presenting on TV on the City Channel, which I think is long gone now. And it was basically, I was a VJ, so it was basically, I would pick 20 songs and I would just be like, MTV used to do it in between the songs. I would say, you know, that was Bruno Mars, and then coming up is Adele or whatever. But I would write little scripts, and I would just, because like, I think mainly because I thought no one was watching, I would just push the boat out and have the absolute crack. And it was, I took inspiration from Russell Brand, the way he used to do his MTV shows, where it was off the wall stuff. And I used to just push it as far as I could and wait until a producer or somebody high up would tell me to rail it in, and no one ever said rail it in. So I used to just get more and more bizarre. I don't even know if we could track down any of that footage now. But yeah, that was my first time.
I'm gonna have a deep dive now on YouTube and try and find that one.
Oh God.
So this is one I wanted to ask you about purely because of the client that you're working with. I think everyone went over to the UK with, or we're on this shoot as well, and that's your shoot with Chloe from Geordie Shore.
Charlotte Crosby, sorry.
Yeah. That was for Easy Locks, right?
Yes, yeah, for Shane. Yeah, that was again, like, she was an absolute buzzer, a dream to work with on the day, in fairness to her. She really was. She is just like, she was such a lovely person. But that little trip, what I actually got out of that was, she gave me a shout out on her social media, and she had like over 1 million followers, and my Snapchat blew up, and I was one of the top 10 Snapchats in Ireland for a couple of years.
Jeez, that's mad.
Before Snapchat fell off the face of the earth, I was one of the top 10 in the country. Yeah,
I think Snapchat's making a bit of a comeback.
Is it making a comeback? Better log back in again.
My little sister and everything blasted out of it. They all have, like, they check their Snap streaks and everything.
Really? Yeah, you see, it's changed. I use Snapchat as a storytelling tool, so I would very much commit to a story. And like, there was one day where it was just a Saturday, I was cleaning the toilet with rubber gloves, and I was halfway through cleaning the toilet, and I saw there was a hole in the rubber glove, and then you know that feeling of like, there's no amount of washing this hand will get it clean. So then, and I had to do, it was during Christmas time, I was doing Christmas shopping. So then I was just like, I just committed to it. I had an oven mitt and I put on it, and I got the bus into town with the oven mitt, trying to like pay for the Leap card, and then into town doing my Christmas shopping. And I just committed to the bit, went for dinner that night with the oven mitt. I just did this whole story of me and this oven mitt just goes like, this can't touch anything. It's disgusting. It touched the toilet. And I would just, commit to it. And I loved it. And it was one of those things that I was posting on Snapchat for me. The people, like the amount of people that were watching it was totally irrelevant. I was literally doing this for myself, for a bit of crack. And then it just kind of took off. And for a little while there, the Snapchat was, it was. But then what I did find when Snapchat fell off the face of the earth and everyone was moving to Insta stories, I was gonna try and keep up that pace with Instagram stories, but it was too much. It's a full-time job. Yeah. If you talk to anyone who is on social media as they're living, it is such a big commitment. And then what you find you start doing is you start planning life experiences, not for the sake of doing the life experiences, you start planning for the content. Yeah. So all of a sudden your holidays aren't holidays because you're thinking, oh, actually, there's a really good spot I can go, and what could I do around that? And you know, all of a sudden you're not present anymore, you're not in the moment anymore. You're actually just experiencing the moment so that you can record it for strangers to watch, which is bizarre. So people who have social media as their life, like Casey Neistat, who does his vlogs, and it is such a huge commitment. I commend them, but it's a lot. It can
an awful lot.
Yeah.
We had Conor Ryan, and he even said like he's on it from the moment he wakes up until he goes to bed.
There's no break from it, because it's just there. It's just there.
It's not like here where you can just leave, you go home and that's it, your work's stuck here. That's one thing I found with having a home office as well was really difficult. Is when you're working at home, you think, oh, but like it might be 9:30, I'll get a bit more done, because it's just there, like I know, straight into bed.
And that's the thing, you can't just guilt-free watch a TV show. No. If you have like a project, a deadline approaching, because I have a home office, I'm sitting downstairs, I'm like thinking to myself, I would feel better going to bed tonight if I just had a bit more done.
Yeah.
So you're actually never away from it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why that's one of the main reasons why I got the studio, was to separate that. And I've read loads of places, like loads of psychological reports that because I used to have like a desk in my bedroom, so I just sit there and edit. It's even worse. Yeah. Now you can't shut off in bed because you're looking at the laptop, or you're seeing. I used to leave the screen real dim if I was waiting for something to render, just in case it crashed. So I'd end up looking at the bottom and then I'd check the thing, and it would bounce back and forth like a nutcase. But it was all just because you want to get the work done. But when you actually separate yourself from the work, like I could work here till 10 o'clock at night, but when I go home, that's it. I'm gone. That's it. I could shut off.
It's important for your brain as well, I think, to have that time away from it.
Yeah.
So that you can creatively recharge the juices.
Yeah. So burnout is a massive thing as well. Yeah. Like I remember it always happens out of nowhere as well. Out of nowhere, you'll just be booked straight through for 2 or 3 weeks, and everyone needs their edits done fast. So you work morning, noon, night, every single day. You're coming in to edit on Saturdays and Sundays. You don't get a single day off. You don't get any time off. You're literally getting Deliveroo every single day up to the studio, so you can eat it while you're working. You go through that, but after about 2 weeks, then that's when you hit a complete wall. You can't think creatively. You start feeling ill. You be completely run down. You be exhausted. So it's so important to take that time away as well. So this one's a bit different. I don't think we've touched on this yet. Because obviously audio is a big part of video. Yeah. But I didn't know DJing was. So this is from your 1 million plays.
Oh yeah, for Body First, yeah. So that was at 4Play DJs.
So that was you, Ray,
Rory Lynham and Stephen Cooper, yeah. Yeah, it was Cooper's brainchild that he put the four of us together, and it was basically, he took the concept of a band and DJs and put us together. So we would do live remixes of tracks. We would kind of build a set around, sometimes we used to have a thing where we'd write like a lyric or a line or a chant depending on where we were playing that night. Okay. And we'd have the crowd singing that back to us. And then we'd record that into a loop machine. And then you can, all of a sudden you're making a song from the night that is there, and that's your finale, you're working towards it. So Cooper had this idea. 4 of us on stage at the same time, played our first gig in the Palace in Navan. We had like literal bed sheets over the desk because we needed 2 full sets of DJ equipment, and we had a deck each essentially. And the proof of concept worked. And then we got Malibu to pay for a tour. They toured us all over the country, and we played every club in the country. Unreal. With Malibu paying for the staging. So this really impressive big LED wall behind us, and it was a proper show. And then once we did that tour, the next year we just basically, Cooper acted as our manager and contacted all the clubs again and was like, oh, we're back on the road. And they were like, yeah, you were great last time, let's do it again. Yeah. And so we toured for a couple of years, and it was a wild time.
A wild time.
Yeah, it really
you would have played in the old Right venue as well when it was the Right venue.
Yeah, we did a number of nights in the Right venue, and there's something about DJing when it's so immediate. When you have, like, the way we work now, you'll produce a video, and then it could be weeks, depending on the season it's going out. It could be a while before it actually gets published. Yeah. You, in the meantime, have done 10 other projects. So you've moved on from it. Yeah. So then by the time this gets out there and people start seeing it, and people start saying, oh, I saw that thing you did, it was great. And you're like, oh yeah, I almost forgot I did that. Yeah. So there's this big delayed response to your creative work. Whereas as a DJ, the second you do something, it's immediate.
It's immediate reaction.
And to feel that, like I remember one of the maddest experience I have ever had in my life was when I was emceeing the Croke Park gigs for One Direction. There was.
I know you were doing that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So when they were coming to town, I was working in radio at the time on FM 104, and they'd had a meeting, the producers and the promoters, and they were like, basically the reality of 80,000 people in Croke Park is that when the Spice Girls play and your average age is 20 or 30, when the gig finishes, people will slowly but surely make their way to the exits, and there'll be a bit of pushing, and we all know what it's like leaving a festival or leaving a concert, but you're grand, you can make your way through it. But the average age of a One Direction gig was going to be so young, and the force that it takes to hurt a smaller body is so much less, that the possibility of crowd crushing was far higher at the Croke Park gigs. So they're like, we need to do something about this. So the idea they came up with was they would have an MC come on stage after the last song and then do crowd work. And I had an in-ear. So they rang me then like the week before and said, do you want this job? You come out on stage and you have to keep as many people in Croke Park as you can for as long as you can to slow the disperse. And I was like, yeah. So I had an in-ear with heads of security and everything. So they'd be telling me, right, green zone, green zone is moving well, direct people towards that. Yeah. Blue zone is heavy, slow people down in that area. So the first thing I had to do every night was walk out on stage and disappoint 80,000 people.
That they weren't coming out for.
Because what would happen is their last song, down, 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 fireworks. And with a show like that, I'm backstage and the last song is happening and the lads will have sang their last line, be backstage, there's vans waiting where Hill 16 was. There's literally vans waiting there. They're literally straight into the van, gone out the door. The song's still playing. Pyrotechnics are still going off. This is all distraction techniques. So it's all pyro for 2-3 minutes as a big finale. They're already gone down the road to the hotel.
Yeah.
So it's the idea is get them out before the crowd even realizes the concert's over. So it all finishes, the last fireworks go, and then I have to walk out on stage. And of course, they just see somebody walk out on stage and you just feel this, oh my God, yeah! So I have to walk out on stage every night and go, no. The show is over. They're not coming back on. I'm Killian O'Sullivan from Ep.4 104. And then there's like this 80,000, oh. But what I did feel was that energy for a second when you do walk out as a silhouette before they put the spotlight on you and disappoint everyone. I felt that energy that they felt every night, and it's real. It is a real energy, and I was trying to explain it to people, and I was saying, like, do you ever walk into a room of, let's say, a couple who've just had a fight, and they could just be sitting in silence beside each other, but you can feel the energy is weird. So energy is definitely something is tangible, you can feel, and I felt the positive that when I walked out on stage before disappointing 80,000 people every night. And then like I had to they all had their posters and stuff, and we had, the screens were still on, so there were these huge big screens that I was about 80 foot tall on, and then we had cameras on stage to show like the posters that they'd made, because obviously the lads in the middle of the concert can't acknowledge all these posters, so my job was we would do a little bit of that crowd work acknowledging the posters to try and keep as many people in the main arena so that it wasn't just this influx of leaving. So that was probably one of the maddest gigs I ever had over the years, that you've just got these like pinch me moments.
Yeah, that's mental.
Yeah, it's crazy.
80,000 people screaming at you.
Yeah, 80,000 people disappointed. It was like a quarter of a million people across the weekend who I collectively made go, oh. So I think anything after that is easy.
Brilliant. Okay, Killian, so we are coming up towards the end. I think so far the podcast is 50 minutes. We haven't even really gotten into the meat of what you're kind of doing at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long one.
Maybe the first two-parter, I think.
Maybe, yeah. 2-part special. Let's stick it on Patreon or some part 2. Exclusive.
All the goss, all the dirty, all the stuff that we can't talk about. Put the
yeah, like the models that you were talking about. Soundbite. A shameless promotion there.
Clickbait. Gotta get that click.
So there was a couple of things I wanted to ask you about, because I had written down working with celebs on set, so we've kind of touched on that, which is great. But you have worked with other celebrities than just Charlotte from Geordie Shore. There was someone else, I think, from Geordie Shore, was there?
Yeah, there was.
Or there was Vicky from.
There was another girl, the product was called Bouncy Blow. What was her name? Oh, it escapes me. But that was interesting because we faked paparazzi. She at least faked paparazzi shot for
Megan McKenna, was it?
Yeah. There was a whole thing that day. It's mad. But again, most people, generally there's like a scale of the more famous they are, the easier they are, the easier going they are. It's when people get hot quick.
Yeah.
Then they start believing their own hype. Yeah. And they're generally surrounded by people who are just telling them what they want to hear the whole time, because when someone gets hot quick, there's money to be made there.
Yeah.
So their managers are around them, there's people who are looking to make collaborations and all these different things. Ultimately, it's so that they can make their cut out of it. So they're just being told the whole time that they're great, everything they do is great, everything they say is funny, it's all great. So people that get famous real quick are sometimes the ones who are a little bit more precious, a little bit more difficult to deal with. And it's the ones who've been knocking around for years who are actually sound and easy and just get it, and they know the reality of the situation is that like what we're doing is not rocket science. It's not actually saving lives, whereas there are some people you work with and they treat what they do as if it is that important. Yeah. And the reality is it's not what we do.
It's meant to be fun, like.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, it's meant to be fun. I remember me the lads were upstairs, Carpe Omni, by the way. We were around having a coffee. We were planning around Black Friday's campaigns and what we were going to do for Black Friday. We were in a coffee shop and there was about 5 people working on the one coffee station and they were stressed out of their heads. And in my mind, I just kept thinking, imagine they were doing brain surgery. Like, what would they actually be like? So when you really put things into perspective, you do calm down an awful lot. You're like, this is it's meant to be fun.
Yeah.
It's relaxed. Like for them, I'm only really serving coffee. Like I'm not in someone's chest trying to fix a fucking artery. That's about that small.
There's some people that
perspective, big time.
Some people that kind of thrive off being busy and convinced, they tell themselves that they're so flat out and there's so much going on, this is so hard, this is so stressful, and you will create the environment you tell yourself you're in.
Yeah.
So if you're telling yourself that you're so stressed, I've got to get this, then if that's your energy, that's the world you will live in. Whereas if you zoom out, there's Professor Brian Cox, in his book, his opening page of his book is enough to just make you put everything into perspective. And it's this might be getting a bit too deep, but he said, what are humans? Nothing of consequence. We're just a series of atoms existing for an instant in eternity, floating on a speck of dust with more planets in our solar system than there are grains of sand in our largest desert. We're nothing. We exist for a millisecond relative to time. And we think that anything we really do is that important. It's not. It can't be.
Yep.
Because in 100 years, everyone you know, everyone you love and care about now will be gone and probably forgotten about. In 1,000 years, nothing that we know to be normal now will be normal then, and that's only 1,000 years relative to the
millions of years that the universe has been around.
Billions of years that the universe has been around. So nothing can be that serious, and life is going to throw what it will at you, and all you can ever do is control the energy you bring to that situation.
Yeah.
And where possible, I just try and bring the best possible version of myself to every situation. And those people working in a coffee shop, if they actually had a stressful job, they'd fall to bits. Do you know what I mean?
That's what I kept laughing about. Yeah. Imagine them in an actual stressful job. like I don't mean to dump on anyone, and I don't think what I'm about to say will. This is going to be another sound. I get you can get stressed in a job. There is an art in making coffee. Cover my ground here.
Yeah.
But when there's 5 people working with you, there's only a queue of about 7. You're almost like one-to-one, staff to, and you're there stressed out of your mind and you're rude to customers, and so you need to go and have a look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, what am I doing? You do. You need to just take a day off.
Yeah.
Go relax.
Because 9 times out of 10, when people are stressed about something, it's never actually that thing that's stressing them.
No, it's something else in the back.
Something else they're not dealing with. Yeah.
Absolutely. We touched on talking about podcasts. We touched on, whether you'd listen to audiobooks or podcasts and stuff like that. You actually have a podcast as well. You run that with
my wife.
Congratulations as well, by the way.
Thanks a million. Yeah, married now. Look at that. I got the bling. So we started a podcast for ourselves, really, because we wanted to. Initially, we were trying to have a baby.
Okay.
And we ended up having to go down the route of IVF.
Yeah.
And from the first phone call we had with our consultant, where she says to us, we got the results back of your tests, because you got to go get tested individually. Yeah. So we got the results back of your tests. And to be really honest with you, the chances of the two of you together having a child is very, very slim. So we recorded that phone call, because when we made the call, it was during COVID, so there was no in-person consultations. We recorded that call because that call could have just as well been great news. This is going to be a success. So we didn't know that going into it, so we hit record as we took the call. So we have that moment captured where we were told that it probably wasn't going to happen for us. And then because me, by my very nature, I document my life. It's just the way I do, not necessarily to share with other people, but just because it interests me. Yeah. My life interests me, Yeah. So we started to document the IVF journey, and Debbie used to do like video blogs about how she was feeling, the reality of it. And we actually cut that together into a video, which is on YouTube. And around that time, we were thinking it would be good to document the first, say, 3 or 4 months of us going from our lives the way they were. We're both business owners, both working crazy hours, having a very free life where we would be going off on city breaks. We did whatever we wanted to do to document that transition into being new parents and how we navigate that. Yeah. So we started the podcast with about 3 weeks left of Debbie's pregnancy. Oh yeah, spoiler alert, by the way. She got pregnant and we have a baby. So we started the podcast about 3 weeks out, and then week of her, we were doing weekly episodes. Then the week of her due date, she got COVID. So we went basically rushed in, and she was taken in on that day, and she had to have a section, and all of this is happening, and I'm sitting out in the car being told that I can come in when there's like 5 minutes left, and all this is happening. But we've documented it all, we recorded it all, and we made it into a 10-part series. So we have season 1 of the New Parents Pod available to listen to wherever you catch your podcasts. And it's those early days of us. We kind of talk in the first couple of episodes about how we think it's going to be when we're parents, and then the reality of it. And then now we're still we're working on pre-production for season 2 at the moment. Amazing. Of that. So again, it'll be another probably 10 episode, and we want to in this season probably bring people in to talk about like actual experts of like weaning and sleeping. And this is a whole world that prior to having a kid, I had no interest in. I wouldn't have listened to this podcast 2 years ago. Yeah. But what we found doing the first season is that there was a lot of people who got quite a lot out of it. I think because Debbie is so open, as she's an open and honest book, as am I, and we kind of talk about the reality of it all, as opposed to just the Instagram version, which most people are used to seeing. Yeah. Whereas we don't, generally speaking, put forward the most polished version of our lives, because that's exhausting. Yeah. So that is up there to listen to if you want to dip in to see how we transitioned from our previous life to our current life.
It's the wild and fun to the serious parents.
Yeah, and they're only about 25 minutes long each, so they're short and sweet, and I'm really proud of them as well, actually, because you just have to listen to them. But
But it shows a lot that. So I talked about this a little bit with Rob Lipset, about kind of, obviously you had an audience, and you've a good following on social media and stuff like that, but you've also grown with that. Like, you haven't tried to be, that same, like the DJ that still plays the crowds, or, you've grown up and now you're having a kid and you're sharing that story as well, even though it's not the same stuff that you were sharing 5-10 years ago. Yeah,
because I try and treat my Instagram genuinely like a reflection of my life, as opposed to a reflection of,
it's not a highlight reel, it's a lifestyle.
Exactly. So like there is, in the psychological world, there is the ideal self and the actual self. And the ideal self is generally the version that people will put out on their social media. It's the version, it's only the best, the best bits of their life. And their actual self kind of gets lost in the background of that. But the problem is the actual self is who you are. So if you're then known, you get a bit of following, or if you are recognized in some way, shape or form because of your ideal self, then what happens is you have this internal turmoil between, you know who your actual self is, and people are loving this ideal version of yourself who you know is not you. So then that's why there's this struggle with people's relationship to social media. So I think, I hope to think that I have a healthy relationship with social media, and that what I put out there is an actual reflection of my life. And it's not even like, I'm very, very, very fortunate in my life, and I don't even put everything that's great about it online. I just share about probably 10% of the cool shit I get to do.
Because you have done some amazing stuff. Like you did the cannonball, I'm pretty sure. Was it?
Yeah, I shot the cannonball. The cannonball, which is basically a load of really rich people with their amazing cars, go for a drive. So I've done the international ones. I've done the Scottish Highland one. So you drive through Ireland to the north, ferry over to Scotland, up around the Scottish Highlands, and that was incredible. Then we did the European one, which took us through 11 different countries in 10 days, down as far as Nuremberg to the Nuremberg and then we actually got a helicopter police escort out of Germany, because they don't like when car rallies come into town, because you can understand why. But yeah, so again, you find yourself on those trips where it's a world that you'd neverwise be in, talking with people who you'd never otherwise be talking to. And what I found on those trips is that I thought people who had Lamborghinis and Ferraris were these enigmas that just existed, and they weren't real people, or if they were, they know the secret that I don't know, but they're just normal people. Like there's one guy, his business is, he just does industrial carpet cleaning, just cleans carpets in hotels, but it's a good business. So he has, his vice is cars, and he has a couple of $1 million worth of cars in his garage, and he's just like a normal person. So the cannonball, and they were good fun to shoot, just because you're surrounded by the most amazing cars in the world. I love cars.
Do you?
Yeah.
In fairness, I've been to, we've driven Ferraris and Maranello and stuff like that, and every time I've gone away, then someone's rented a fucking sports car, supercar and stuff like that. And you see that becoming quite popular now, with especially people on Instagram who have about 10 or 12,000 followers. I think will rent a car, especially the English, they're mad for it.
Yeah. Do you know the funny thing is, what they're doing is, and they don't tell you this, but they'll rent it you can rent a Ferrari for by the hour. So they'll rent it for 2 hours. They'll bring 10 outfits, and then they'll shoot their week's worth of content in 2 hours. And then they'll just be sitting there, and it'll look like they have the Ferrari for the whole time. They'll have had it for an hour.
It's mental.
So same with boats, that people are renting boats for an hour in Portugal, down in Villamora. And making it look as if that's their whole week.
Yeah, but I think, I wouldn't be interested in that kind of lifestyle where you're spending every bit that you have for this perception that you're something that in their eyes is better. I mean, there's plenty of ways that you can be wealthy and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be, I have a boat and a big car. Like, you could be stay with a nice house and a family. That to me is perfect. But you see, I think Instagram and social media especially has twisted, and you see it even with younger minds now as well. My sister the other day was asked, wow, she's gonna kill me for this. She was asked by someone, I actually don't think she was thinking. I wasn't there, I just got this phone call from my mum. But she was asked, what do you want to do when you're older? And she was like, I think something with Instagram. My mum was like, what? No, that's not what she meant. But her mind went straight to Instagram. But what she actually meant was, I'd love to do something with makeup, promote it through Instagram. Which is fair enough. But I love the way their mind just jumps straight to Instagram. And it's almost like if they were there 5-10 years ago.
If you look at Snapchat, if you look at Vine, if you look at the history will show us that in 10 years time, Instagram, there'll be a new thing. Like TikTok has already taken over the next generation coming through. There'll be another TikTok, there'll be another something. And you got to look at your life in that if your business is reliant on something that you have no control over, which is whether Instagram is hot or not, then your life is constantly on tenterhooks. Because if Instagram went tomorrow, my business is still viable.
Yeah.
You know, I can still do all that I can do. There are some people, if Instagram goes tomorrow, that they are goosed.
Yeah.
And the same with TikTok. And I think you need to, one thing, like I'm over 20 years sort of in the media, whether it be in television or radio. And the one thing that I've learned is you got to be adaptable, and you've got to be just open to doing whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And I think people see this new social media wave of celebrities, and they are celebrities to these younger generations, and they think it's an easy route to success because they see the Lamborghini, they see the Ferrari, and they think that that's what success means. But you're right, that's not success.
No.
You know, because the reality is those things aren't owned. Those things are leased to give
or rented or
just to give this perception.
Yeah.
Jay-Z said you can only really afford something if you can afford it twice.
Yeah.
And that's how I live my life.
Yeah.
Is that if you're like breaking your heart, if you're still living at home and like struggling to, if you're not like contributing money to your parents for living at home, but you've got Balenciaga trainers, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
You know, but this is a much bigger discussion that thankfully I've got a long time to get my arguments in shape before Alex gets old enough to have to deal with all that sort of stuff, and hopefully the world will have changed at that point. He's only 9 months old now, so hopefully by in 15 years time
social media he's gone.
There'll be something different. Yeah, definitely. It'll all, I think the internet, I think in 15, 20 years time we'll look back on this time in the internet and it'll be like the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
It's crazy the way the internet is right now, the way online bullying is, and how easy it is just to create an account and then attack somebody and bully somebody.
Spam and fucking everything. And people, like you see, the amount of spam emails, spam messages. I'm starting to get phone calls now from I actually got a phone call from a company in Sweden. So I saw the number Sweden, and usually you never get a scam call from Sweden.
Yeah.
So very neutral, like, so I answered the phone. That was my thinking anyway. Answer the phone, and your man's like, I just want to, hi, is this Peter? I said, yeah, knew my name.
Had your name and everything?
My name. He said, would you be free to do a quick survey? I said, how'd you get my number? He goes, we bought it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing.
Burn it.
Yeah.
Start again. But yeah, the world at the moment is gone absolutely mental. I mean, there was the crypto phase only a year ago, 2 years ago. That's kind of all simmered down now. You don't really hear much of that. You have the NFT thing, that's kind of simmered down. And now you have TikTok influencers blowing up with one video that could last 15 seconds, and that's it. Now they're on 1 million, 2 million, 3 million followers. Yeah. And even I was watching something by Gary Vee there recently, and he used to say consistency was key when it came to social media. Just continuously posting, keep posting, produce decent content that relates to you, and just keep doing it. And you'll grow. You might grow slowly, you might grow quickly. It depends on the person, it depends on the content, but you will grow. Now he says try everything, because when one of those videos lands, you're gone viral. That's it.
Mad.
That's it. It's mental what can happen nowadays. There's no kind of, there used to be steps and stages. Now it's all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like snakes and ladders.
And then like with TikTok, it's all about copying other people's ideas. That's what I don't like about TikTok, is that it doesn't promote originality. One person has an idea, and then somebody, by lip syncing it, goes viral. Yeah. And I watch lip sync videos. They're funny, but like it kind of kills me that actually it doesn't promote individual creativity. 9 times out of 10, it's just somebody doing their version of somebody else's idea.
Yeah, like you'll never have the content then. Do you remember, I can't remember his name now, his name escapes me, but he does all the video magic.
Zach King.
Zach King. There'll never be anything like that on TikTok, because there's no need for it.
Yeah.
There really isn't, and it sounds shocking, but the amount of effort that goes into those videos, and thought process and creativity, you can achieve by just duetting with a video. You can achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
Mental.
Yeah, reaction videos are another thing that are just crazy to me. Yeah. The video of just
watching somebody else's video.
And
that going viral.
Yeah. The whole world sometimes, it's just makes no sense. But then to another generation, this is the norm for them. And that's the thing as well. Like our parents would have said that the generation we grew up in was like, what are you doing? Putting pictures of your dinner on the internet. Like that's what Instagram first was, It's crazy to our parents, the idea of that. Who cares that you had spaghetti bolognese tonight? Yeah. Like who cares? Big who cares? Yeah. And we're like, you don't get it. And then like, I love, like, if you look back on your Facebook from 10 years ago.
I avoid that.
Some of the cringe. Just had chicken wings. Like, who cares? Big who cares? But at the time it was relevant. And it's the same where now the grumpy old people who are looking at these 15, 16-year-olds going like, I don't get it. And they're like, yeah, you're not meant to get it because you're old.
It's just like a sly dig, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I remember because my mom always said it to me. She was like, we might not get it, but one day you won't get it. And then you'll know how it feels. I'm starting to hit that. I just do not understand TikTok. I don't get the appeal to it. I mean, like, my girlfriend sends me loads of videos, and like, some of them are funny, like, and that's great. It reminds me a little bit of Vine.
Yeah.
Vine was original. Vine was funny, but there's no originality in these ones anymore. And it's like 90% of it's people dancing to songs, and you're just like, there's nothing creative to it. Like,
just this.
Yeah. Go on and do a little TikTok dance for a second. So we're going to wrap up, but just before we wrap up, I want to ask you about what you have coming up. If there's anything big, obviously you said you're working on season 2 of the New Parents podcast. Yeah. Is there anything else that you're working on that you can tell us about, or?
Just like continuing to do whatever comes my way. Like, I've just finished a run of presenting with Ireland AM, hosting the show, and like, that's something I'm looking forward to doing more of. And I know I said that I'd stepped away from being in front of the camera to moving behind the camera when I was in my early 20s, and much happier then. But then being in front of the camera as a presenter it's different than being in front of the camera as an actor, because you're yourself, and you get to be yourself, and you get to, you know, express your own thoughts as opposed to expressing somebody else's thoughts. So I'm loving that. I'm loving the opportunity of being with Virgin Media and doing stuff with Ireland AM, and just loving life. Yeah, I'm very fortunate at the moment. Right. Very fortunate. Work's going well, and the family's well. Yeah, just
the most important things anyway.
More of the same. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks a million, Killian. Thanks again, guys, for listening in. Make sure you check us out and check out the other episodes that we've had. They're on Spotify and YouTube. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers.
Thanks a million, guys.